Folks, welcome back to The Pulse. My name is Matt. This is Crypto Heartbeat, and my heart is full. Is your heart full? It's Freedom Friday, and we're unlocking generosity. Man, I'll tell you what, if you knew what I know, you would be pleased as well. Buy the rumor and sell the news, folks. It is a good Friday, 3 o'clock Central Texas time. My name is Matt. This is Crypto Heartbeat, and I got a packed show for you today, packed with a lot of updates and information. We're going to go over a number of things. Got free books to give away. We got everything here. Folks, unlocking generosity. What a critical time we live in. This is an amazing time in human existence. It is changing so rapidly. Everything from crypto to AI to wars and rumors of wars. And we're going to talk about a bunch of that stuff today. But I'm very thankful, and that makes me happy. Many of you probably in the chat know what I'm talking about, but just a lot's going on. Folks, this is the time. You know what they say about the bear market, right? This is when the real stuff happens. This is where opportunity is, folks. You made it. You made it through. And I'll tell you what, there is grace upon grace that is being extended our way. And there's amazing things because as one increases, the other does as well. And so we're going to be about positive vibes today. Let's get into the chat. Let's say hello to you, and then we'll jump into the content today. We got lots to cover, a lot of cool things going on. First person to come in today is Rich Liberation, Freedom Friday, bullish on Texan, bullish on life, bullish on so many things. Folks, do you have a vision for the future of your life? You know what? You got to know, where are you headed? You know what? I always want to remind you that there is a purpose to your life. You know, what's amazing is you don't realize this, but we live inside of essentially a construct. We live inside, people are like, well, it's a simulation. Well, in some respects, it is a simulation because it's temporary. And you popped yourself into this environment here, and it's got rules and it's got all kinds of limitations to it. And then you're limited because you're temporary. But then you've been dealt a hand of cards, and not everybody's been dealt the same hand of cards. But the fact that you're here is what's going on in DeFi. But there's so much more going on in this world because it's just a tool. We're going to be chopping it up today. But Rich Liberation, thanks for being here and being bullish. Got to keep a positive attitude. Taryn, what's going on? The bullish. Good to see you. Church of the Universal Oneness, peace and good health and prosperity to everyone. And those are some good vibes as usual. Godfather J6 got the fire, the peace, and the love. What's going on, Godfather J6 and my man, DGen Dougie Peach? It is truly a stream when the DGen is here. David Lee. Folks, you know David Lee. This is the guy who loves everybody, right? This guy that gives you a hug. So here's the deal. I'm hyping him up so much that next time you're at any event and David Lee's there and you're going to look at his name tag and be like, is that the David Lee? And of course, then before you get those words out of your mouth, you're going to be not choked out, but like he's going to give you a big hug. You know what I'm saying? He's a guy that traveled all the way from southwestern Indiana up to Michigan, 7.5 hours to come to my dad's funeral. And then just a friend, man, somebody that comes and just hangs out with you and goes, you know what? I know a brother is in need. And that's what I love about this community. People are giving of themselves in so many different ways. Even that gentle ginger giant, he's taking care of his wife. It's her birthday. He's got to take care of mama. You know what I'm saying? Good man, good man. Sam Kemp is checking in today. What's up, Sam Kemp? I'm looking forward to seeing you on Monday. We're going to be live from the Capitol, the Texas Capitol building in Austin, Texas. It's a really unique opportunity. I've been invited by the Texas Nationalist Movement to come into their room in the Capitol and to meet with legislators to talk about the referendum. And I'm super excited about that. I'm gonna put my jacket on. I'll put my boots on too. Gotta do that, don't you? Gotta wear boots in the Texas Capitol. We're gonna put a boot in your beep. Sam Kemp, good afternoon. Mr. Lee, my online ghost is here. Good to see you. Hex on air. Hello, all in the chat. and the DGen himself. Awesome. Good to see you guys. Checks my pulses here. Casey Hex, good afternoon. Watching what I can live before the day is over. This is we're going into the weekend here in Central Texas, 3 o'clock, getting ready for, I assume, happy hours coming up. But folks, this is man, I'll tell you what, I have had a week. It has been unbelievable, the things that have happened. And so I'm excited to share a number of those things with you today. Just producing, blessed, unbelievably. Folks, have you run into miracles in your life? You run into things that, what is a miracle? This isn't the topic of the day, but what's a miracle? It's something that is so unbelievable. But even the term miracle, like we're like, wow, I did not expect this to happen. And it happened. It's that kind of day, if you know what I'm saying. Mr. Keller, what's going on? Good afternoon, Texan and Hexy Quinn. And Hexy Quinn knows what I'm talking about. She's got a smile on her face for the whole human race, if you know what I'm saying. Hexy Quinn, good to see you. Thanks for being here and bringing all that you got. It is good stuff. Talk about some good vibes. And there's Drix. Say, Crypto Heartbeat, good to see you popping into the KSB chat. Yeah, I was checking out the ladies. The ladies were bringing the heat from all across the world. It was good to see them. Certainly saying hello. Good to see you, Drix. And the Ladder Stakes. You got to check out Drix. Drix has got a track. It's called Ladder Stakes. You need to check it out. Excuse me. Casey Hex. Hello, family. Snowy afternoon up here in Michigan. It is a snowy time of year. We had a big storms come through last night, tornado warnings. My son is so scared of tornadoes, man. And of course, I'm into the weather. Brandon and I were like, I was the amateur meteorologist. He was the literal one. But I'll tell you what, my son's asking me all these questions. We're talking about the Fujita scale. He's like, Dad, what is this? Is this an F5? I was like, son, we won't know if it's an F5 until after they determine how much damage it creates. He was not pleased by that answer. Nico, what's going on, Nico? Howdy, a 4-day weekend in Byron Bay. Nice. Can't beat that. Well, up here to the right can. Yeah, there you go. Mobius, hello all. Good to see you. Steak and Bake JDB, welcome back. What's up? Clintrons, good morning from sunny Queensland. Queensland, that is fantastic. I know one other person in Queensland. So glad to see you there. Hope you're enjoying. Hope you're having, I guess it's going to be going into fall there in your neck of the woods. I hope you've had a great summer. Opalbamian, I've been seeing you out on Twitter. My Friday is made. I caught the stream. Good to see you. Thanks for all your good vibes that you put into all that you do. Thank you so much. It's so cool. We attract the things that we give, right? We give. And, how do you unlock generosity? That's what we're going to be talking about today. And you probably know this story. This is a part of the calling on my life, is to unlock generosity by giving. And it's so counterintuitive to what we think, right? Everybody in this world's trying to take, and we're going to give. That's what we're going to do. We're going to give. Hello, Mobius. Good to see you. David Lee with the love. Hexographer, good to see you. Yeah, David Lee is the legend. South Texas Crypto. When you have, then give. When you learn, then teach. Bought 2 million more Texan last night. Fantastic, man. It's been pretty amazing. You're looking at the chart of Texan, and you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to actually just show you the daily on this. It's embarrassing to Brandon when I put up the chart, because I don't look at the charts like he does, because I'm a neophyte when it comes to this stuff. But I know what love is. That's the daily, folks. That's not bad. That's not bad at all. 4 zeros and a 1831. Fantastic, folks. Up and to the right is a good thing. Just kind of creeping. That's what we're doing. We're creeping. It's a good thing. I won't leave that up for too long. I'll get in trouble, I'm sure. Congrats on the invite. That sounds really exciting. Yeah, I'm really excited about being there. I'm going to stream live from the Capitol building. In between having conversations, I think I'm going to actually get a chance to sit down with Sam Kemp, which I'm really excited about. That's going to be really cool to visit with him. He's going to be there too. But this is a private event that they said, hey, we want some people to come in that we feel like can really help us speak to these legislators. And they're going to be inviting them into this room, and we're going to get a chance to make the case. And that's really good. I was going to have Brandon fly in, but Problem is, he would probably choke people out, so we decided against that. Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. I know where Bethlehem, Pennsylvania is. You know what? There's a college right there, as I recall, right in the middle of a residential area. Matter of fact, Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. Dominic, good to see you. Glad that you're here. Extravagant taste. End of the week. Take a peek. Your 401k was likely up today. Tasty. You know, crypto's been getting hit hard. There's a lot of things going on in the crypto world. But we are sunny and dry. Awesome. Robert Keller, not far from me. There you go. And all of these awesome fuchsia tongue out things. Paul Opp, 7th. Hello, all. Good to see you. I love a good storm. I love the smell of napalm in the morning. That is fantastic. All right, let's see who else is here. Taryn, I have to catch a replay. I'm here and out. See you then. All right. Good to see you. Have a great weekend, everyone. The Fire from Hexaquin and 5K bought 280 million Texan. Time to create those endowments for the grandbabies. There you go. There you go. It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible what we can do together when we work together. So let's talk about it, folks. I wrote a book. And you know what? I wrote a book, and I have to admit, I put in there, and I'll actually show you this. Share with you the book. It's called Unlocking Generosity, and that probably makes a lot of sense to you. But let's take a look at this right here. So I'm going to kind of break down what I did, because I think it's a bit of a life hack in some respects using AI. So this is just a PDF. You know, I'm not planning on selling this book or anything like that. This is a free resource guide. But there was a number of people in the Texas nationalist movement, and the people that I meet tend to skew older than me. And what I've noticed is it's like I find myself explaining things over and over again. And there's a number of practical things that people need to know. But then also I wanted to make the case, because every time I talk to somebody that's a no coiner, and they're, you know, I've got kids at the school, I've been on the board of the school, and people ask me, hey, what do you do? I hear you're in crypto. And, you know, I think a lot of people assume that crypto is FTX, you know, or Celsius. They think, well, crypto's dying and all this stuff. I had a good friend ask me the other day. He's like, hey, what's up with crypto? Is it dying? I was like, oh, no. Crypto's here to stay. But DeFi is really what you need to understand. And so I wanted to create this guide to decentralized finance so that somebody could actually print it out and, you know, put it in a 3-ring binder or do something like that, write in the margins, use it as a resource, because there's a number of things. It is a guide, but there's a lot of the why do you need to know about DeFi instead of why do you need to know about crypto. So this isn't like crypto, this is DeFi. What is DeFi? What is decentralized finance? Well, it's an alternative financial system. This is literally good versus evil, folks. This is the alternative to the centralized players. This is an alternative to the authoritarians and the globalists. So let's take a look at this. So a guide to decentralized finance, and you'll notice this is the Texan Token edition. So it's got a whole section of Texan Token, but this was written by Crypto Heartbeat and ChatGPT. And so one of the coolest things you can do with ChatGPT is anything that you are writing. And this is a life hack, folks, life hack for you. You go on ChatGPT, and let's say you wanted to write anything. And I would say, think in terms of concepts and ideas that you want to get across. So for example, let's say you're even writing an email to someone and it's important to you. Or you're like, all right, what do I want to say? And what am I trying to say here? So everyone's kind of got a different style of writing, and not everybody's a great writer. And I consider myself to be, I consider myself to be a good writer, meaning kind of a business writer. I'm not a creative writer, but I can get I can communicate concepts. But what's interesting is, even if I do, and I've written a lot in the past, I still need an editor. And what's amazing about ChatGPT is it essentially is an editor for you. And so one of the greatest things you can do, simplest thing, and it saves you so much time, is you just write ahead of what you cut and paste in, is you write, help me write this more clearly, colon. Okay. So I usually use it that way primarily. And so what I'll do is I'll be in a Word document, or I'll be in whatever you're going to be writing in. And I'll say, all right, what do I want to say? And I'll say it in a concept, in generally like a paragraph, probably 3-4 sentences. And I get this out. Well, then I say, help me write this more clearly. And what's amazing about it is the more you do it in a chat line, it remembers things that you're talking about. And it surprisingly ties together this kind of thread of a chat. And what's really neat about this, I utilized this for this book because there were some things that just blew my mind. One of the things somebody asked me and is in this guide is, hey, how do I set up a custom token in MetaMask? Well, I asked ChatGPT, I said, hey, give me a step by step guide of how to, basically put a custom token into MetaMask. Unbelievable. And what's cool about this is it literally goes out and it knows all the documentation and it creates a step-by-step guide. You know that the grammar is correct and all the punctuation, spelling's correct. And if I had to do that, I could do it, right? I could go to the documentation, I could walk through, I could look at screenshots, I could go, well, you do this, and then you go to import token. In 8 seconds, so you've got a guide. I encourage you to take a look at this and think through this. So a lot of how I was able to create this book so fast and get these things out was I knew what I wanted to communicate. But it's almost like you have to see yourself as a curator. And what does a curator do? It's someone who actually is pulling things out. So think of what a museum is, okay? And I'll get back to the book here. A museum curator, there's all kinds of things in the basement of the museum. And the museum curator is somebody who's like, all right, what are we doing this season? What do we want to emphasize? And what relates to what? And then they think in terms of how people walk through the museum. Is there a story that we're telling? Is there a certain exhibit? And they're choosing things that are going to be on display. Well, there's so many things that you could point out in crypto, and everybody's got a different point of view. And so, as you want to bring value to people, well, one, I wanted something people could print out and they could write in the margins. Hey, that's great. Okay, we accomplished that. You print out a PDF on your printer and you can write in the margins. But then, from this perspective of what I want people to understand is DeFi isn't just, oh, well, it's just this moment in time. And if you get in at the bottom of the bear, you might experience some big run up. Yes. Yeah. Mad gains. That's great. But that's kind of table stakes, right? That kind of gets you, and that's the ante. Okay, you have my attention. I understand about Bitcoin. I understand about these things. Now tell me more. And then I want people to understand how important this time is that we live in, because we're in this crisis era. And so I utilize ChatGPT, and that's why I'm not taking credit for writing this book. I'm more of a curator of this book, and it really helped me. The beauty of it, though, is I know all the spelling's right. I know the grammar's right. And I got to express the things I wanted. And actually, I learned some things in the process. And it really, really helps you save a tremendous amount of time. So if you want to do anything that is, kind of creative work in which you want to make sure that it's, correct grammar, pronunciation, grammatically correct, spelling correct, those type of things, I'd encourage you. Just a real simple prompt of help me write this more clearly. You can do it with emails. I'm using it a lot more as a tool, a go-to tool. Okay. It's probably a little more information than you wanted, but let's take a look at this. So I'm going to walk through this document. This is free. You can download it. There's a link in the description. And I just encourage you, this is something you could share this link with anyone that you want to introduce to crypto. And, if it's, Texan token that you want to share with somebody, it's also got a section on Texan token, which is cool. So I'm going to walk you through the document itself so you can see what's here. So in this introduction, I really, telling this story of this battle between good and evil and how the financial system, how it operates, why it's important, and why DeFi is so significant and what's at stake. And we really start out with this understanding of the crisis era. But also, in the middle of every difficulty lies an opportunity, right? So this quote from Albert Einstein is really this whole thing. Why? Why are we here? What are the implications of, think about the financial system. It has been steeped in centralization and scarcity. And this whole world that we live in, which seems abundant, right? When you look around and you see how much is here, and you can put, seeds in the ground and grow them, you got sunlight and rain, you got all these things. There's some amazing fertile land. We've got amazing natural resources. And then we look at people and their human hearts, and what do we see? People stepping on other people's heads to get theirs. And so this idea of unlocking generosity is really about saying, hold on, what if I I decided personally that I was going to live in abundance? What if I was going to live fully? And this is a concept in John 10:10. This idea, what is a full life? What is pressed down, overflowing? Well, one of the cool things about faith and one of the cool things about generosity is the fact that, it's a mindset, right? What is your philosophy? Everybody's got a philosophy, whether you think you do or you don't, the way you were raised, the experiences that you had. And a lot of times people don't realize that, these things have created a philosophy, whether you've decided on one or not. And where faith comes in, which I think is really interesting, is it gives you essentially a framework. And you go, well, how do I see the world? And of course, you can look at it from a lot of different perspectives. But what's interesting about, ancient literature, the Bible, the construct and the format of Western civilization is really based on this idea of justice, fairness, truth, um, and compassion and unity and agreement and cooperation. Those are the fundamental tenets. But what has happened is it's become corrupted. And where do we see the corruption most commonly is in centralization. And what do people want to do, right? They want to get theirs. And I often talk about John Nash. John Nash won the Nobel Prize in 1994 for his contribution to game theory. It was called the Nash equilibrium. You can look it up on Wikipedia. The Nash equilibrium is this concept, and it's really where win-win comes from. You've heard of that. Hey, let's have a win-win. How do we both win? Well, there are scenarios, and that's really from John Nash's contribution. It was this idea in negotiations where you say, well, what if I considered others in addition to myself? Now, I want something, but what if I understood that I was in the context of a community and that we both could win? And it may be, well, it's more beneficial potentially if we both win in this scenario. And so, what's amazing about that is this idea of unlocking generosity comes from, for me personally, it comes from the feeding of the 5,000. And if you watched my open letter to Jordan Peterson, you heard this story. And I was inspired by um, the feeding of the 5,000, which is a story specifically from the book of John, where Andrew says to Jesus, hey, there's a lot of people here. And at that time, there was like 5,000 men. And potentially, I think some of the scholars think there could have been 10,000 to 15,000 people who had come outside the city to see Jesus speak, right? And he's like, well, it's getting late in the day. And they're like, well, how are we going to feed these people? It would take a half year's wage just to give each person a bite. And of course, I mentioned miracles before. Well, this is one of the miracles. But what's interesting is that there's a boy, and there's a boy that had 5 loaves and 2 fish. And he gives those to Andrew. Andrew gives those to Jesus, right? He's handing those over. Well, where did this kid get these 5 loaves and 2 fish? And I want you to kind of see this. You know, if you're going to go out into outside of the city in the first century and you're going to go listen to a speaker, and I think of Jordan Peterson, it's actually kind of cool. It's like this Jesus character. People are going to um, they're going to big theaters. They're going in some cases to these stadiums to listen to this guy, Jordan Peterson, talk about his perspective from a psychological perspective of the Bible. Dude, like people aren't walking into churches, but they're paying to go to these big venues and listen to this guy talk about the very foundations of Western civilization and the Bible, which I think is fascinating. It's a fascinating commentary on the church and faith and the contribution that Jordan Peterson's making. But here you are, right? It's in the first century. There's no Applebee's, there's no 7-Eleven, there's no convenience stores, there's no restaurants, and you're walking with your family out to see this guy you've heard about. His name's Jesus. And you're like, hey, I wonder what this guy's got to say. And so what? 10,000 people or more show up and sit down and they spend the day there. Well, there's a reason the boy had 5 loaves and 2 fish. It was likely all of his family's food. And I had heard a pastor talk about this previously. He was saying, did Jesus create matter from no matter, right? Did he have a bag of fish and bread? And did he just like Oh, I had this hiding this whole time. Or did he literally, what we kind of, suggest is manifesting this stuff from like just a bag. I just happen to have a bag and boop, boop, boop. Here's all this bread and fish. But this pastor challenged my thinking with this idea of saying, well, what happens when a boy, and of course, the faith of a child, right? You think about the kids, you're like, yeah, right. Like your 5 loaves and 2 fish are really going to feed 15,000 people, kid. Ha, ha, ha. But what's really interesting is Jesus took that and broke it, prayed and broke it, and told the disciples to hand this out. And everyone ate to their fill, and there were 12 basketfuls left over. So, what is this story about? This story is about abundance. This story is about unlocking something. And so, you could say, I think naively, you could say, well, that was a miracle, right? Jesus created bread from no bread and fish from no fish. Okay, you can make a case, and I'd buy that case, right? Okay, I'm cool. Is he capable? Absolutely. I'm not debating that. But this idea that it was taken from a boy who gave 5 loaves and 2 fish, because you don't eat 5 loaves and 2 fish for lunch. It's not one person's food, it's a family's food, but it's likely all that he had. And you think about this idea of what if you were to give all that you had? And it doesn't mean just your bread and your fish, but all that you have, everything that you personally have, meaning your time, your talent, your treasure, all the things you give yourself fully to this. Well, I believe that the key to unlocking generosity is by giving, right? I often talk give away what you want to receive. Okay, what does that mean? Give away what you want to receive. So you want more love, love more people. You want more compassion, be more compassionate. What is it that you're thinking that you want, right? You want friends, be a better friend. Okay, I get it. It's counterintuitive. Okay, you don't go take these things, you give them. So this boy gives this, and they pass it out. 12 basketfuls left over. The thing that's really interesting is it's a commentary on all of those who are sitting out there who came outside of the city in the first century. They likely brought, just like the boy and his family did, 5 loaves and 2 fish. And if you think about it, just imagine you're going out for a picnic, or you're going out to the lake. You're going to go out somewhere. I can just imagine you're packing your picnic basket, you're packing your coolers, and you're thinking about, all right, who's coming? We got my buddy and my brother-in-law. And it's like, all right, well, we better grab some more beers because he drinks a lot. And then we better, let's grab a couple loaves of bread. Let's get some lunch meat. Let's, whatever it may be, a couple bags of chips. Well, in the first century, it's probably bread and fish and, these basic things. Well, so commonly, anything that we would buy that is our own provision, our own food, we would put it in our backpack, we'd put it in our cloak, we'd put it in our robes, we'd put it in our satchel, we'd put it in our Yeti cooler. And that's the place in which we would carry these things that we have paid for or created. Because in the first century, likely people had to make their own bread, right? Catch their own fish. And so, you did some work and you took some time and effort. And so if we think about what is money, money is a proxy of our labor, right? It comes in many forms. But if you think about the bartering system, loaves of bread and fish are also proxies of our labor. It's hard for people to relate to, but it's true. You took time to catch the fish, and you took time to mill the seed in order to get the bread, and you took the time to bake the bread. And so you're putting a portion of yourself into a creative effort or venture. And in this case, it's prepping lunch and dinner. You do this all the time, and you don't see it as the fruits of your labor. You don't see it as a proxy of your labor. But I think in the first century, and we see this all the time now, well, this is mine. Like, this was my time and my effort, and I caught these fish and I baked this bread. This is mine. So I keep these things hidden, right? Because this is mine. I don't want somebody stealing it, right? I don't want somebody taking what's mine. I wanted to provide for my brother-in-law who drinks too much beer, right? I wanted to do this myself. So, okay, you find yourself out in the midst of this, and then you see this boy off in the distance handing up all he has. And of course, the disciples wanted to provide for the people. I think what's incredible about this is when you see someone give all that they have to say, you know what? It's okay. I don't need to eat. You ever have that situation where somebody is so generous that you're just like, they would inconvenience themselves for you? Well, what does it do? It unlocks something in you. And I think the miracle here, I wasn't there at the first century Palestine. I don't know what happened. But one of the amazing things about this is I know that the way in which we unlock abundance is by giving. So I write this book with ChatGPT and I'm like, I want to give a gift. Okay, we get a team together and we build a software contract and we pay the money to get it security audited. We put up a website and we think about it and work together and get on stream. All we can do is give something, whether people consider it a value or not, right? Text and token, what is it? It's software. It's immutable code on the blockchain. That's all it is. The question is, are you going to animate that contract to your own benefit? And the same thing is true here. Are you going to, contribute your proxy for labor? Are you going to see it as something that secures your future or not? That's really what happens inside of you. But all we can do is give. And I think that the whole point of this book, Unlocking Generosity, is the idea to understand that, hold on a second, you know what? Even if you missed a meal, it's okay. But the idea of lavishing these gifts of generosity on people is actually, we're doing that which, in a way, if you have the proper perspective, God has already done for us. Right? And so as we give, we unlock generosity in others, not out of obligation, but out of, oh, I don't have to hoard this. I don't have to, oh, there is enough to go around. Oh, it's not the scarcity model. Oh, we can work together. And there's 12 basketfuls left over. And it's this idea of pressed down, overflowing, and abundance. And what's interesting is the abundance exists, but we don't have the mechanism by which it's unlocked unless we give. And so that's the premise, right? That's the whole premise of the whole point of the book. It's everything that I do, and that's the origin of it. That's where it comes from. But there's a lot of practical things in this as well, right? So we talk about, crisis era, give the why behind everything. We talk about money and the history of money. Got some cool stories in here. Money and technology equals progress. We talk about decentralizing everything and what are the impacts potentially of decentralizing everything. Why is it popular? I give you real big warnings on why is this so risky and it's volatile as heck. We talk about the literal financial decentralization. We go into things like, all right, help me understand Bitcoin. And I think a lot of no coiners are like, I've heard about Bitcoin, but what does it really mean and why does it exist? And then what about the difference? I've heard about like coins, cryptocurrency and tokens and NFTs. Like, what are these things and how are they different? And then we get into things like smart contracts and why that is such a unique innovation in the blockchain. And then things like looking at real world practical things. This not your keys, not your coins. What does that mean? And there's a cool story here. It's unfortunate. A guy, Stephen Thomas, who lost 7,002 Bitcoins, lost the keys, lost it all. Talk about crypto wallets, talk about MetaMask. Like, people have asked me many times, like, well, how do I actually get this thing? Well, there's a step-by-step guide how to do it. Why should I use MetaMask? What are the points of why would I want a non-custodial wallet? It's not just MetaMask, right? It's why do I want a non-custodial wallet? You know what I mean? Like, I want to literally hold my keys. I don't want someone else to hold my keys. And then I've had many people ask the questions, well, how do I actually get into crypto? Okay. Well, in this case, it uses Coinbase as an example, but like you got to have fiat in and fiat out. Well, what happens when I need to get out of crypto? Because a lot of people say, oh, well, just go do this. But I've met so many people who are like, well, I need more help, and they really need their hand held. And so I wanted to create something that would actually hold their hand. And then explain things to people like, well, you're using all these acronyms and you're using all these words like DApp and DeFi and AMAs and all that. What are these things? Well, what is a DApp? And then we go into value, right? And we talk about the concept of value and story. And that really, I talk about this as software and a mutable contract on the blockchain. Well, without a narrative and without an identity and without a community, there's nothing, right? There's tons and tons of contracts that don't get utilized, that no one's paying attention to, that there's no community around. So it's a tool. That's all it is. Just like money is a tool. The question is, are we going to animate this? Hex, to me, is one of the most perfect examples of a community animating a tool called the Hex contract to accomplish something for themselves, and doing it in community and realizing that, hold on, together, we are going to decree our own value here. And that's the real powerful idea. The big idea here is we are creating essentially our own digital nation. And with that digital nation, essentially a currency that we agree upon that has value, but it's a shared fiction. It's a narrative, it's a story. And how do you unlock value through that story? And then how does crypto actually gain value? What makes it valuable? My wife would always say to me, that's not real money. All right, well, I'd address that. Well, why is that the case? And then here's some just basic good stuff to know about. How do I set up a custom token in MetaMask? I can't tell you how many times people have asked that. What is an automated market maker? What is a liquidity provider? How does that work? It seems so foreign, but somebody needs to tell you. What is trustless yield and why is it so unique? That's important. It's really important to understand that, because people don't understand how it gains value. When you pair something up and then, literally someone makes the market, and you do that in a truly decentralized way. I mean, Uniswap to me is one of the most amazing innovations in blockchain. But trustless yield, like, hold on a second. I don't have to give up my keys. I can use the staking function and I can get rewarded in that native token. Well, okay, how does that work? And how do I gain that value? And why do I gain that value? And why is it so unique? And why is trustless yield going to be the topic of the next 5 years? Why are immutable contracts important? What is immutability? You start talking to a no coiner and they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, what do you mean? And then, how do you get into DeFi? Why participation in DeFi is important. And then we get into mad gains. This is where the money is, folks. Talking about people and how big things have grown and why this is such a unique time. We get into how to stay safe and secure in crypto, talk about hardware wallets. And then we talk about independence. And this is where this whole section on Texas independence comes in. What is the Texan token? What is staking within the protocol? How do you endow your future? And then we get into chapter 10, which is what is at stake. And this is where we kind of wrap things up with, guys, understand in the construct that the entire financial system is changing. And you get to participate in it and you know about it early. And it's such a unique opportunity to be in before like everyone else is, because that's where the opportunities are. It's like understanding how to utilize AI right now. There's so many arbitrage opportunities of value. Talk about a unique moment in human history, and then we get into give away what you want to receive. And this is like the wrap up of John 6:9. Here's a boy with 5 small barley loaves and 2 small fish, but how far will they go amongst so many? So we talk about that, and then some final thoughts there. Okay. So that is a free book. I wanted to promote it on my stream to say, please utilize it for anyone that you want to have. Like, give me a guide, help me understand through this. And if you give somebody this, or you have them go to mycryptoclassroom.com, which is Brandon put all those videos together. If they prefer that style, that's a great place too. You could utilize both. But I'm hoping what happens is people will print this out, and they'll put it in the 3-ring binder, staple it up, and make notes on it. And, and hopefully it'll be a jumping off point to say, hey, if you don't understand something, go search up these terms and figure out what it is. But these are the kind of things that I think are most important for you to relate to. Some good warnings, but also good context to understand that, hold on, this isn't just another stock, right? This isn't a stock tip. This is a revelation of a whole new era in how value and money is. I think once you understand that money is just an agreement between parties and it's perceived and it's based on a narrative and an agreement that we have, you really, it kind of demystifies it. And you're like, oh, so that's really all it is? Yeah, yeah. Yeah, try to use Australian dollars in Central Texas to buy a Coca-Cola. Good luck with that, right? And then you realize, well, hold on a second. So this is really paper. Yeah, but we have this agreement. Well, this agreement you just grew up in, and so you accept it. And you're like, oh yeah, we kind of accept this for what it is. So there you go. So that is Unlocking Generosity. That is a book. I'm going to continue to update that document. If there is anything that you're like, hey, this would be a really great topic to have a section on, tell me what it is. DM me, send me something in Telegram, or DM me on Twitter, and I will create a new section. I will update a version, and we'll continue to make it better. If you're like, hey, I really need some information about this, absolutely. And so this is the first effort, right? To give something that can be helpful to a certain group of people. But if you want to unlock generosity in your own life, right? What do you want? Generally, you need to give it first. Because I think that in order for us to receive, we have to let go. We have to let go. I remember before I met my wife, I just had this crisis of dating and really making all of these wrong decisions. And I got to a certain point where I was kind of disgusted with myself. And I was like, you know what? I'm doing this all wrong. And as soon as I let go of all this stuff, here she comes. And it's just, it's amazing. It's amazing. But there is something to that. You get kind of to the end of yourself and you're just like, well, I can't manage this anymore. And it's like grace steps in and you're delivered. So if you're facing trials of many kinds, be patient with it. They're like Brandon says, there's ebbs and flows to everything. So, all right, I got some more stuff I want to talk to you about. But that's the book. It's free. Please utilize it. And let me know if there's any way I can improve it to help you, because this is the time. Introducing people to DeFi now, better than halfway through the bull run, right? Or at the top when people are buying the tops, right? And we know what that's like. This last bull run, I feel bad. There were a ton of people that came in and they were buying into Hex at 40 cents, But what's funny is 40 cents is going to look silly in the next 5 years. So, treason is a matter of dates, my friends. Okay. Reminder, Monday, live streaming from the Capitol. That's going to be pretty exciting, giving you an update. In addition to that, what's coming up here next week is the launch of Ophir, folks. John is going to come on the channel. I'll have that up. Keep your eyes out for that. But John Firestarter is his name. He is the founder of Ophir in the Philippines. And that is exciting. And so this next week, early next week, we're going to actually be launching. He's going to tell you all about it. I don't want to let the cat out of the bag, but that's going to be a really cool opportunity. And he let me do it on my channel first. So we're going to launch it on Crypto Heartbeat. Then you're going to see him all across the community sharing his passion and sharing his heart for people within the Philippines, especially those who are really struggling. And the network, the nonprofit organization, is actually tied to about 3,000 churches in the Philippines. It's a cool, cool story. And when you see who John is and what his heart is, you can learn more on my channel. There's a video up on my channel right now where you get to know John and his background. But it's a cool story. And it's a cool story. And if you're somebody that's interested or concerned about, things like poverty, consider about people that are struggling in poverty, this is really a very, very cool project, because it has a lot of impact, partly because it's amazing how little can go so far in places like remote Philippines. So very, very cool. So that's happening here early in the week. And then I want to point out this. Did y'all see Richard Hart and his childhood photos? Oh my goodness. Matty Allen did a redemption arc stream. this story of Richard Hart going from like, big PP stuff and flexing like crazy to showing his childhood photos. And I think it's a new era, and I think he's also recognizing the fact that transparency builds intimacy. And he's showing you, hey, I didn't grow up with a silver spoon in my mouth. My daddy wasn't a hedge fund manager. I didn't go to like this, you know, boarding school in the Northeast. And not that there's anything wrong with that, but that's what defines this tribe. That's what defines this community, is that there's a leader who understands what hard times look like. And we realize, hold on, we value this. And that's why we see it as such. Honestly, you know what it does? It creates a contrast for us, because the people that are really excited about DeFi, and especially the Richard Hart ecosystems, are those people who have seen hard times in their lives. And so that's pretty cool. And so it was awesome to see him and his young boy, as a young boy. And that transparency builds intimacy with us, because we see the reality and the humanity rather than carrying a bunch of bags around with watches. That may attract certain people, but I think the folks that are in it for the long haul are realizing, hold on, you want the person that is kind of leading the charge, the tip of the spear, to be someone that is genuinely concerned about others. That's at least my take. And I've had to read between the lines for a long time with Richard Hart, but I've seen through those lines, whereas a lot of people could get distracted. They could see, well, what is this all about? Hold on, it's incongruent. But when he starts talking about his vision for biotech or for longevity or for, sci-fi stuff, or you being better and you apologizing to friends or whatever it may be, the old top hat Richard Hart wisdom, spitting wisdom is powerful stuff. And I really appreciate that a lot. Okay. So next, actually, let's get into the chat. And then I've got a couple more things. This is going to be a little bit longer than normal here. So thanks for being here. My dear friend in Russia learned about Texan. He's deeply grateful. Wow. That's so great. Promoting the Hex love in the Lehigh Valley. That's where it is. Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, right? The Lehigh Valley. His growth is only 2 weeks, buys enough groceries for his family for a couple of months. Man, oh man. Hex Squid says that's cool. You could even let ChatGPT translate into different languages. Exactly. It's funny that you mentioned that. There's so many different things that you could do. Absolutely. Barry Crumb, unlocking generosity is an excellent primer to crypto and DeFi. I found the Easter egg, but unfortunately, I don't have a Twitter account after being banned 4 times. I guess that ought to sign up again. Yeah, or you can go into Telegram. That's fine. I'll accept that. Imagine what Ophir will do in the Philippines and beyond, unlocking generosity. Well, it's this idea. What are we doing as a team here? I believe that the future is tokenizing communities. Why not go to where the trust already exists? It's hard to build community, folks. And these are centers of trust that currently exist. And that's what Ophir is. Ophir represents the gold, the good gold of Solomon that he used to build the temple. And they would travel to Ophir. And many scholars believe that current day Philippines is the land of Ophir. There's so much gold in Ophir in that area. But what's amazing about this is, if you recognize value as a proxy of your labor, then the gold is actually in the hearts of men and women. And that's another counterintuitive concept. CryptoPay, hello peeps. Francis Powell, hello all. Good to see you. Richard Hart can adopt eHex holders in PLS. Result, Hex 1 and Hex 2. There you go. Hex 1 and Hex 2. I love it. I love it. Hex Squid, Russell Brand is a guest on the Joe Rogan Experience on Spotify yesterday. It was a good episode. I think I saw a little bit of that. Russell Brand, boy, those two guys, right? Perfect anti-establishment Gen Xers. And there's a reason that we can relate to them. I think they're asking really good questions. Independent media is growing because who do you trust? The only issue, I saw something where Russell Brand was talking to Tim Pool, is the only problem is there's this constant desire to be so sensational to attract attention that it becomes hyper partisan or hyper tribal. And this is what people are calling the culture war. Please like, share, and subscribe. Thanks, David Lee. Appreciate that. From today, we call it mining bread and fish. That's right. You know what? I don't have any, in my opinion, I'm not fearful of those words. Staking is something that's, you know, universal. I don't know that it's a good look to be changing it. I almost think when you deal with immutable contracts, it is what it is. It is what it is. But you know what? You can't change an immutable contract when it's up. I guess you can change the vernacular, but cat's already out of the bag. I'm a proof of work. Still working device effects. There you go. You are the proof of work. Isn't that the truth? Yeah, you got the battle wounds to show for it. Nico, I need to get my day started. Going to catch up the replay. Thanks for being here. Appreciate that. Tune in on Positive Energy and you will attract positivity. If more and more people do this, the darkness will pull back. And you think about this, a cord of 3 strands is strong, my friend. You need friends. There's a story in the Bible, it's an amazing story, about how Jesus was teaching in a house, right? And all these people were crammed in there. And there were friends of a dude who was paralyzed. And they wanted to get to Jesus so badly to help their friend get healed that they dug through the roof, because there was obviously probably, they literally dug through the roof and lowered him down in front of Jesus. Would you do that for your friends? That's fascinating stuff. Afternoon Heartbeat, Acting Emaciated in the house, Liberty or Death, Unlocking Generosity, Jesus showed us the way. Great message, Matt. And that's the thing. We look at these stories and we recognize the fact that, boy, we could get into a big, big discussion about why didn't Jesus heal everybody? What were these miracles all about? What are we actually supposed to take away and learn from all of this? Because it's a much, much bigger idea of who we are and who you are. And so many of us are grabbing everything we possibly can in our lives and shoving it into a God-shaped hole in our heart, going, maybe another Lombardi trophy will make me feel at peace. And what we realize is it doesn't, right? Money's not going to do it either, folks. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news. You just be rich and miserable then. And some of you are like, hey, I'll take that instead of this. Barry Crump, I have no intention of using ChatGPT for the foreseeable future. But then again, I initially thought it was about the internet. I wonder how ChatGPT would rewrite passages from Dickens or Shakespeare. Yeah, and you can do things in different styles and everything. But here's the thing I want to point out. My daughter came home and she said, Dad, I have to write a paper on the dangers of AI. And she was wanting to talk about what does that look like. And I want to really emphasize this to you. There's a lot of people who are going to say AI is the devil or it's demonically possessed. Well, people said that about the internet, right? People said that about a lot of things. And a lot of people say that about guns. And depending on where you fall in the spectrum politically, let me just suggest this to you. We're the ones that have intent, and we're the ones that animate tools. You can hammer in a nail with your shoe if you want to. And I'm sure you've tried it, right? You're like, I don't have a hammer anywhere. And you pull off your shoe and you're like, bam, bam, bam. And you can get the nail in, but boy, a hammer's a lot easier for it. So you're animating your shoe to put in a nail. It wasn't ideally meant for that. But the same thing is true with all tools. And I think about this idea of someone's intent to kill you with a sword, right? In battle, right? Battling you with a sword. Well, that sword, that very sword, could also be used to knight someone and elevate them in their authority. So you, as the person with creative ability that was created in the image of God, animates tools. And so now, when you get into sentient and AI becoming conscious and all that kind of stuff, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about these tools that are essentially compression technology. They're operating like the human mind does. You go to school, you learn things, you put in 10,000 hours, you dribble a basketball, you do all of these things that make you more skilled, and then they test you. And those have some value in life. I know all the, I know all the states and all their capitals. Okay, great. Or I can do a Rubik's Cube in 4.6 seconds. You do things and you compress down this knowledge and information, you regurgitate it. What ChatGPT and these AI, language models are really doing is they're tools. So if you wanted to, you could use it to promote the heck out of, you could promote very evil things. And you could write about evil things and you could encourage people to do evil things. But also you could utilize it to, shorten the amount of time it takes for you to create something of value that's a resource for someone, or take something of value and convert it to another language. So it inherently isn't evil. It's the intent that we animate the tools with. It's like saying, well, a gun is evil. Well, no, a gun could be used for your own protection. It could go to provide for your family and hunting, but it also could be used by a criminal, right? So we animate tools. And it's just like the internet, right? Is the internet used for amazing things? Yeah. Is it used for some really bad stuff? Yes. It's us that animate tools. Okay. So that's really important, I think, for you to see. Now, do people use tools to track and to gain an advantage? Absolutely. So when we look at CBDCs and we see these tools that are being created to leverage control, we have to be cautious about those things. But in it, from its core, tools are animated by people, and people will use tools like CBDCs and social credit scores and digital IDs, and they'll tell you one thing and they'll also do another. And so we just have to be cautious. Sprack, Burger, take a look at Fiat and Famous. Those guys are letting the users extract value for the LP instead of Brian Armstrong or CZ Binance. Fantastic. On Pulse Chain, there you go. Check them out. Fiat and Famous, absolutely. Tortoise Johnny, better start playing with PulseX. I created a Minta in USD. Oh, Mintra USD pool today and burn function a couple times. Yeah, very cool. Yeah, learn how to use it because it's coming, folks. Coming soon. Hit the like button, good people. Privacy coins might be subject worth adding to the book. Absolutely. And what those options are and why privacy. Well, and you know what? Actually, Barry, really talking about the transparency of the blockchain and what can be tracked. I think you're absolutely right. I think most new people would have no idea. Well, it's a ledger, but it can be seen by everyone, and you need to understand that. That's a really good point. Be aware. People see, and you dox your wallet, they can track everything that you're doing. That's a really good point. If you want to know more about Ophir, which will be announced here next week, you can join the Telegram. There's a lot of wonderful people in there in the Philippines and across the world who care about these things. So check it out, t.me/Ophir Crypto. Torch Johnny, the legendary David Lee, everyone. Absolutely. I'm getting a feeling from Richard Hart tweets V3 testnet this weekend. Wouldn't that be awesome? So the question really is, checks my pulse, if V3 comes out this weekend, how long until mainnet? He said 2 to 4 weeks. Wouldn't that be awesome? Arcax can even it to you. Is it a sacrifice of the Philippines project? No, it's actually a donation. So it's the same thing as with Texan. John is advocating for a nonprofit organization called Gem Effect, which serves about 3,000 churches in remote part of the Philippines. And so they're actually, I think it's amazing. And I don't want to give away anything, but what John has decided to do is to help churches with Ophir and endowments. It's such a cool thing. But this is actually going to go to serve these people who are serving the poor within churches. It's pretty amazing. But yes, token distribution will be done on donations, not on sacrifice. But great question. Would possibly be perfect timing V3 testnet this weekend. Bitcoin drops one last time in a couple of weeks and starts climbing. And then, yep, Bob's your uncle. Let's go. Torch Johnny loves AI. Fantastic. Awesome. All right. So this the last thing I wanted to share with you is I wanted to give you a bit of an insight into what we're doing. We talk about unlocking generosity. I want to bring this up. So we did an announcement the other day, and that was really about tokenizing communities. And I wanted to take a minute to walk through this again to share with you what we're up to, because we are in the process we have a private placement memorandum, and this is where we're raising capital because we are going to be launching a decentralized exchange on, let me show you where it's on. It's called Freedom Swap. It's going to be on Ethereum, and it utilizes a incentive token, and that incentive token is called Unifier. So we're actually creating a DEX on Ethereum and an incentive token. And here's what's so cool about it. And this is on Ethereum, not on Pulse Chain. It's called Freedom Swap. It's a DEX with constant buy pressure. What'll happen is 100% of the pool fees go to LPs. So that in and of itself is great. So there's no cut that's taken. And then the protocol fee itself, any protocol fee goes to buy and to burn the Unifier token. And so Brandon, the mastermind of all this stuff, we wanted to have something, and he literally kept on saying, hey, What if we had something that unified everything? And I was like, that's Unifier. And there's a funny story behind that, but that's the token. And what'll happen is anyone that holds a max stake length of Texan or Ophir, so a 22-year stake of Texan or Ophir, or a 5555 stake with Hex, every single 30-day period, you'll be able to come and claim Unifier token. That's cool. Why are we doing this? Because as we add new communities into our ecosystem, one, they've got a place that they can go to do transactions, a fork of Uniswap v3 called Freedom Swap. So all these new no coiners will have a place to go. And they know that when they do transactions and swaps on this DEX, that it's going to buy and burn Unifier token. And this is essentially what is happening with PulseX on Pulse Chain. We're doing this on Ethereum, okay, with all of our new community people coming in, which is very cool. But every 30 days, you'll be able to claim, and of course, this drives engagement, and it also promotes people essentially to stake the max stake length. And the real purpose for us doing this is that we're talking to these other communities, and we've got some amazing conversations in the works, and we want to bring to them something in addition to just a contract and education. We want to bring them, hey, look, you are not only going to have this opportunity to unlock abundance in this community where you already have trust, but then you're going to also be able to be able to offer something in addition to that, and that is this incentive token. Well, if you're getting this incentive token, it's going to reduce the sell pressure on your native token in your community. Okay, so that's the cool thing, and that's what we're doing. So it's going to include really trustless yield projects like Texan, Ophir, and then our goal here over the next several years is to have 2 to 5 more communities, including Hex, that will be able to claim the Unifier token, as well as anyone who's an LP provider. You will get your essentially NFT or token from Uniswap v3, and you'll be able to also claim Unifier tokens. So that sweetens the deal for LPs as well. Okay. But ultimately, we're connecting all these things with Unifier token and a DEX with constant buy pressure on Ethereum. Excuse me. So January, we launched Texan. We've got the Ophir token, which will be live in May. We're going to be announcing that donation phase coming up. Then in July, we'll do the Freedom Swap and Unifier launch. Those will be together, and that will be the DEX on Ethereum. And then the next community, and we're having some amazing conversations. One of the things I've alluded to in the past is this idea of hope, health, opportunity, poverty, and education. And I kind of gave this little hint last time, but I'll just say it again. I'm really interested in the concept of play to earn. So in gaming right now, you see people where they're incentivizing playing to earn. One of the first play to earn cryptos was Axie Infinity, actually, out of the Philippines. In Axie Infinity, you'd play this game and you'd breed these critters and you'd get, this token, and, you'd have some sort of benefit. And people were playing it so much that they were making more money by playing this dumb game than they were working. And it was really interesting because it went a long way. And it really is an interesting concept, and we're seeing more and more of this stuff coming up. But I've really been, and you're going to hear this from me as we get through Ophir's launch, is I'll be talking a lot more about the power of prayer. Not a lot of people, and I'm curious, do you believe in the power of prayer? I certainly do. And you know what? If you don't have a need for it, you don't really think about it much. But boy, I'll tell you what, if you've got a child with cancer, you've got a loved one who needs prayer, or you've had an accident or something like that. I haven't met anyone. I don't care what they believe in. I don't care what their faith is. If they're struggling and you said, hey, do you mind if I pray for you? They're like, yes, anything that could potentially help make this situation better. And so we're going to actually be telling you about, over the course of the next 6 months, a new concept, a real true utility called Pray to Earn. And this is going to focus on people across the world who, imagine somebody that's disabled, a grandmother who's disabled in the Philippines, let's say. You know what? Her faith is strong. And imagine the ability and the functionality to be able to say, we're going to reward you to pray. And I'm going to challenge you with something. What if we actually discovered that if we work together, and let's say there was some magic number, which I'm not sure there is, but there is something about a collective group of people coming together and praying for someone. And I have story upon story about amazing things. And I know a lot of doctors in our community. And I said, "Do you see miracles?" He says, "Like, I see them all the time." I said, "What's the common denominator in the miracles you see in the hospital?" And he says, "Prayer." I'm like, "Really?" He goes, "Yeah, we see it all the time." And it's shocking. He said, "It's shocking. We do everything we can, but it's amazing the people that have faith and prayer around them do so much better. And I see miracles all the time." And this idea that what if, and I'm just, this is the naive faith of Crypto Heartbeat. What if I said to you, you know what, if we could just get 100,000 people to pray for you right now, what if literally that problem was solved, that health issue was solved? What if the grace increased? What if the comfort increased? All those things. And this idea, the power of prayer is not, you know, uniquely reserved to one faith. There's all kinds of, right? People all across the world, good thoughts, good vibes, prayer, specific prayer within a certain religious context. But what if you were to take people who we know the value and value the power of prayer, and what if we actually enabled people that were disabled, that people have discarded in remote parts of places that have some sort of internet connectivity? Instead of playing some damn game, they were praying for you and your child, and they were rewarded for that. And what if people could actually make a living by praying? So it's a really powerful concept and idea, and it's something that I'm just fully committed to, because there's a whole system that we're working on that is going to take that concept of pray to earn, and I think it's going to go around the world and back. And I think it's something that, wow, could you imagine? You imagine? So this interface, what happens is it's actually done in audio, and you have to confirm it. And there's a way that things are justified as actual prayers you get credit for, and all those things. It's really cool. But what's amazing about it is if you were somebody that was in need, and you're like, oh, you not only could, I mean, emergency prayers, you could pray for people that have a similar condition to you, or a certain group of people in a certain people group or a certain geography. And what's amazing about that is at any point in time, because your voice and your time is essentially its own limiter. What is mining? What is hash rate? And the reason that hash rate is there is because mining is this assumption of work, right? Proof of work. Well, in this scenario, it'd be proof of prayer. And prayer is something that we speak, and it is based on our time. And so it has a natural mining analogy to it because it comes out of the mouth of people. But what's interesting about this is this idea that we could bring value that's not just, it's crypto value, certainly. But what if literally we could take millions and millions and millions of people who believe, but also be able to provide them the ability to earn for doing something productive that literally could potentially enable supernatural power. So those are the kind of things I look at. Like, how do you give? How do you change the world? How do you unlock abundance? How do you unlock generosity? By giving. So this whole world that we're coming into, this is why I share what I share. This ain't about the moolah. Money is a tool, and you are a steward, and you are temporary. But imagine you have to have these resources, but they are in abundance. And if we work together, we could have a much more full life and a more rich life. And we see those glimmers of that life in the Hexagon community. It's like David Lee coming to my dad's funeral. That's a picture of what is going on. We bear each other's burdens, we divide our pain, and we multiply our joy. So anyway, that's just, for those of you who actually stuck around, you get to hear a little bit of the alpha that's going on behind the scenes around here. But we're committed to doing things that can be transformative for people. And I absolutely love the idea that it's not just a bunch of nerdy young kids, but a grandmother who's disabled, whose faith is strong, could earn by praying for people across the world or in her neighborhood or neck of the woods. And it's such a neat idea. Rather than playing, we're praying. Folks, thanks for joining the Pulse today. My name is Matt. This is Crypto Heartbeat, and there's a lot going on. And I am super, super thankful for you, thankful for this community. It's Freedom Friday. It is, this is consequential times, my friend. All you have to do is hang on and recognize the fact that you got work to do. You are not here by accident. You are put on this earth for a purpose, and there's a plan for your life. Do not give up. Do not nuke your account. Stick around. The sun will come up tomorrow. Folks, take care of yourself and do not mess with Texas. Take care, everybody.